Hey there, we want to talk about the Greeks today as we continue our analysis of these different ancient empires. And when you talk about the Greeks and their development of civilization into an empire, you've got to recognize the role of geography. Being a region dominated by mountainous peninsulas and islands as it reaches into the Aegean and, of course, larger the Mediterranean Sea, the people of Greece will be great sailors as they need to acquire the resources to survive by using ships, and trading will, of course, be a great way to do that. The weather will allow for a lot of outdoor activities, great opportunity to practice your techniques of battle and warfare that, of course, would lead you to maybe being able to acquire an empire. Early on, it says on your notes here, from 2000 to 1100 BC, led by monarchs, the Mycenaeans are some predecessors to what we would consider to be a Greek empire. They were real. We often thought that they were very fictitious, being the source of stories by Homer, who was a great storyteller of a later people known as the Dorians, much less advanced. But the Mycenaeans were found to be real. Archaeological evidence suggests that events like the Trojan War really did happen. Now, some of the embellishment of storytelling probably took place with some of the mythological features of works like the Iliad and the Odyssey, but we do know that to be a real group of people that existed in the region. It says by 750 BC that the city-state becomes the primary political unit of the region, and there were a number of city-states here, but primary among them would be Athens and Sparta. Let's talk a little bit about Athens and Sparta. Now, different city-states had the opportunity to rule themselves in different ways. Athens will, over time, become more of a democratic society, whereas Sparta, very militaristic, very controlling. You would probably think autocracy here as well. Athens is not going to just drop a document. This is going to take some development over time to get to these democratic principles. It says by 621 BC, a scribe known as Dracos was providing the written laws here in this region, and by 500 BC, they had developed into having an actual council to help orchestrate these laws. We're moving towards a direct democracy. Now that means, of course, that the people get to decide what the laws are, and they have to be executed by the government, but the citizens, and that's going to be an exclusive number. Not everybody who lives in Athens is going to have a say-so or a voice. You've got to be certain land holding, you had to be a male. There were certain requirements and stipulations that had to be met. Sparta, again, on the other hand, was very excluded geographically. Their foreign policy is basically leave us alone, or going out and attacking and conquering other places. Not a whole lot of relationship there. Their social order is very defined as well. Men and women, or families even, were very separated. Men were in the military till age 60. They were expected to live in the barracks for really until then, and that's the way their army maintained its strength. The Greeks are going to be challenged in the region by a group we've already talked about, the Persians, and that challenge is going to take place on the west coast of the Anatolian Peninsula, where there were some Greeks living there, and when those Greeks began complaining about the mistreatment of the Persians, the rest of the Greeks came to the rescue, so to speak. So for a long period of time, the Persian War would be fought. And this is going to be a new kind of war. There's some new tactics, there's some new techniques, there's some new materials. Iron enters into the picture. The phalanx is a technique that would be very successful for the Greek fighters here to take on much more superior forces. Battles at places like Thermopylae with the 300 and Marathon would be some of the highlights, so to speak, for the Greek success. The Greeks are going to win this war, and this is going to bring a lot of unity and identity to them. But with that comes some responsibility. Athens is your leader probably of these Greek city-states following, and the money stays in Athens, so to speak. So the treasury of this alliance system is going to be found there. Using that, leaders like Pericles are going to lead Athens into that golden age, which is historically a good time. And this is when democracy is going to be strengthened, advances in art and architecture. You can read all that on the notes. Getting a little bit too big for their britches, so to speak, to say that colloquially. The Athenians challenged maybe pick a fight with the wrong guy. And now we're going to look at some Greeks versus Greeks here in what is the Peloponnesian War. And it's going to be Greece versus Sparta. The Spartans are going to win. And so now you got to say, well, did winning the Persian War create problems for the Greeks? If Sparta or if the Persians had won, we'll never know. That's what we do as historians, though, we speculate. But by 404 BC, it says in the notes, Athens was completely destroyed and their empire was gone. This time of post-empire Greece is a great time of reflection for them, and this is when your philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, will succeed one another, each being a student of the previous, and really digging into the mind and determining the important values of the society. And all of them coming from really some different points of view there. So that's it for the Greeks today, and we'll continue to look at empires and try to recognize how they are alike and how they are different. Thanks.